Hey y'all, we back. We back to AutoCAD again and finishing up the last kind of steps for our black box file to kind of move on. We're going to go through setting up a title block and then a couple missing dimension lines on here that we kind of want to add to this space to finish this out. I'm going to show you through how I make my title blocks, and you can make your own if you would like, or follow and create one that's exactly like mine. If you're going to make your own, I recommend that you have the USIC standards with you because you need to include all that information on it. But you can absolutely make your own and make it look like how you'd like to kind of go with it. But so, as you can see here, I'm in my same file where I made my black box ground plans for the first floor and second floor, and I'm just going to kind of move over to the side and begin working on this. How I make my page and my kind of title blocks for this is I like to make a print screen window. There are viewports and layouts that you can do to do the same thing. This is how I have learned to do it, is I like to kind of make my own page border on a file, and I will use this exact same page border and title block and change it around how I'd like. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use my rectangle tool. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to type D for dimensions and hit enter. Then I want 4 foot, enter, by 3 foot, enter. And then I'm going to click and place it. The reason for this size is this size of paper is what ARC e-paper size is. That is what our plotter upstairs in the grad office prints out to, and most commonly on printers. But you can make this to what it is. For this, I would like all of your PDF files to be this size, so that's what I want to make it into. I then will type in offset, and I like to offset it in by 1 inch. Enter, click, and drop. And I'm going to hit escape. So right now, I'm drawing in 1:1, so I've drawn in scale to the size of what this is. When we turn all of our drawings into PDF versions of it, we will always print those at scale size. And so I eventually will take this whole thing at the end and scale it to a larger version of it. But this right now is at least the page border for what it is. That I like to, the outside of it is what the exact size of the page is, and I like to have at least about a 1 inch border on all of my side to just have a gap in there around all of it, and that should be where the watermark should drop onto all of it. The next thing I need to do is I want to explode this square, so I'm going to select it, I'm going to type in explode, hit enter, and then it should have broken that square into all the lines for it so that I can do this individually. The next thing I want to do is type in offset, and I want to offset at 8 inches, and I want to offset this line over. This is where I build my title block at. I like to build on the right side of it and keep most of my information on the bottom right. You can build down here, you can build to this side, or it's very common. You can build it to wherever you like, as long as your title block stays common to it. The most common practice is to keep our information down here in the bottom right is usually where our page number is. So that's why I like to keep this area to it. Next I'm going to type in offset. I'm going to type in 0.5 inches. And then I'm going to offset these lines 11 times. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm going to type in offset again. This time 1 inch, and I'm going to offset this line over here. Then I want to type in trim, and I want to start clearing out a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to clear all of these lines and delete this line out. I want to delete here, here. I want to delete these 3 out. I want to delete here, delete this line out, and I can delete this line out. And this should be all the information spots we need. Oh, need to draw one more line. So I'm going to type in line. I'm going to go to the center point on this line, and I'm going to draw straight down. Escape out of this. I'm going to type trim, and I'm going to trim that out. Great. Now it looks like I can start typing in all of my information of what I want to go here. I'm going to put in placeholders here. You should make this applicable to whatever show you're wanting to put into this. So this top portion here, I'm going to type text, enter. Wants to know starting point and then what direction. So I want it to write this way. No rotation. And then at the top we'll go show, and I want to make sure I'm writing in all caps, show name. And I want to click off of that. I'm going to hit escape. So we'll notice this text is really big compared to what we're drawing. So I want to change the text height of this. If we have our properties manager open, if we go down here to text and we go to text height, we can change that. We know this is roughly about 1 inch, so I'm going to try 0.75 for the height of it. And that should fit in there pretty good. And I'm going to shift that down. And I'm going to shift this over. Instead of trying to type text again, I'm just going to copy this. So Control C, enter, then Control V to quick command paste these. The thing that goes below the show name is the venue, or the location of where you're doing this production at. So for the adaptation project, you would be putting in the University of Florida black box. This is smaller. This would be 1/2 inch, so I'm going to change this down to like, I don't know, 0.4 and see how that fits in there. For a height, I need to change this to move it in here and drop it right there. Below venue, I'm now going to copy and paste that, and I'm going to put it below it. Below venue, I like to put the director. Your director for the adaptation project can be whoever you like. I'm going to hit paste again, so Control V, paste below that. Below that would be your name, the scenic designer. Scenic designer. Then below the scenic designer, I will put the technical director. And I'm just double clicking on these to edit the text with them. So technical director. In this space, this is where I like to include a safety warning that I like to include on my drafting, a full title of that taking liability off of what I am. And I will just go ahead and copy and paste on here really quick so you don't have to see what I'm writing. So this is what I will type and include onto all of my drafting and have a space here included with this statement. I have shrunk the text to, I believe, 0.15 for a height of it. Just because it doesn't need to be super big or liable on there. It's kind of like at the bottom of like the small print is essentially what it is. And I will include this phrasing and how it's written on there on every piece of drafting I put, because as the designer, I am strictly stating that I am not responsible for knowing how this is built, because I don't know how any of this would be built or what it is, so I like to include that to play pretty much ignorance is bliss. Below that piece, I want to delete this line out. And this is a location that I will include what the plate name is. So I'm going to copy this and paste it in here. In writing what exactly this plate of drafting is. Plate name. For like this piece, this would be ground plan floor 1. And I would put on here ground plan floor 2 for like the plate name. Below that, I want to offset this square a little bit bigger. I noticed I made it a little bit smaller than what I want, so I'm going to go ahead and type offset. I'm going to offset it, let's see, by 0.5 at first. Yeah, I like that better. So I'm going to delete that out, type trim, take that away, and that looks more to the size of what I want that box. So below plate name, I'm going to copy and paste. I want to put scale here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shrink this text because I know eventually it's not going to fit in here. So instead of 3/8, I'm going to put 0.25, and that should fit fine. Move it up so it's a little bit more centered, moving again so I can move it to the side a little bit and landing it here. This is when we PDF it, we want to make sure that whoever's having to look at these files with a scale ruler could use for it. So more commonly than not, you'll be putting on here for like the ground plans 1/4 inch scale. And how that wants to be written is 1-4 is equal to 1 foot. This can change from every different plated drafting that you do to. Again, if it needs to be in 1/2 inch scale, you would want to make sure you've changed this. The next thing, and I'm just going to copy this text, so Control C, Control V, and drop it next to it. Next to the scale, I like to put the date. I will put in the date here of when I'm turning this in or when I've done a revision date. So I want to take that date and I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it. And I want to put up here and I'm going to put a revision number. Revision number. And currently I'm going to put 1 because this is version number 1. So I'm going to take this and I want to move it over. When we go through our draftings, there will be many times that we have to revise things or change things or edit things. And after I have turned in my plates at one point to my technical director, I will want to change that revision number and the date that I've turned it in so they have it. Lastly, in this square, I'm going to take my date again, I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste it. This is where I like to have my plates. Just dropped it, not where I wanted to. Here. Oops, I hit escape. Plates. So I'm going to copy the date again. I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste it. I'm going to paste it twice. So the top, I want to change to 1, and the bottom, I'm going to change to like -25 as an example. I'm going to move this to the bottom corner, and I want to change this text height to like 1/2. So what this is telling us is the plate numbers. So for every plate of drafting, for every one of these we have, that's a plate. That's what we call our different kind of numbers for it. So how we want to have that written is the bottom is the total number of plates there are, and the top one I like written bigger to show what that plate number is at that time, like what current plate we're on. The last thing that I want to write, and I'm going to take my revision number for this, I'm just going to copy and I'm going to paste it. I'm going to put it up top here. I'm going to type notes, and I'm going to put asterisks after it. This square here is what I like to include of either if I'm drafting for someone who is in the union and they have a stamp, I'll include it here, or a school symbol, or a fun little black and white image. I like to leave that shape there for whatever I'm going to kind of insert into it. A lot of times with the shows, I will just include some sort of fun PDF kind of 2D image of what I like. This is my basic template for what my drafting is, and I will go back to this every time I use this. We drew this in 1-to-1 scale, so I have to take this and I have to change it for every time I want to use it. So how I want to do it, I'm going to make a copy of it. So I'm selecting all of it, copy, enter, I'm going to click my point, and I'm going to drag it over, and I'm going to drop it. So I want to make this copy. I want to make this work for 1/4 inch scale, because right now if I was to print this, this would work on a 1-to-1 scale, but I need this to be a lot larger to fit around drafting that I am drafting very to scale. So I want to select all of this, and I want to type scale. The first thing it wants to know is my base point I'm scaling at, so I'm going to choose this corner. The next thing is we can scale by a factor, but we want to scale by a reference. So I'm going to type R and enter. And it wants to know what its reference is. So this is where we type in that scale. So I want to draw this up to 1/4 inch scale. So my reference length is 0.25 inches, enter, is equal to 1 foot, enter. Now if I scale out, I now have that plate drawn to the scale that I want it to be. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select all of that. And I'm going to make 3 copies of this because for your adaptation project, I want one for each of the ground plans for the first floor, the second floor, and you're going to try to do 1 plate of drafting for 1 element of the show. So I'm going to copy. I'm just going to choose the corner as my base point, and then I'm going to drop 1, and I'm going to drop 2. I'm now going to go ahead and take my first floor ground plan, and I'm going to type move, enter. I'm going to move it into like the middle of here of where this is, because this is going to be the first floor plate. I'm going to take my second floor, so select it, and I'm going to do the same thing of moving this over to the second plate. So selected, move, enter, and I'm going to move this now to my other plate and drop it in there. And then this last plate will be for your third piece of drafting. One of the next things we want to do is we want to go ahead and take and put a center line onto both sets of these drawings. That's really the big thing that's missing on these to be proof of good drafting with it. So I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to find my center line. So I'm going to choose center. I'm going to type line, enter. Here should be center, and I'm going to draw straight up. I want to make sure that my ortho mode is on, so drawing straight up. And I'm just going to go ahead and make sure of this. So I'm going to take a dimension, a linear dimension, and I'm going to choose this corner and draw up. And I want to make sure that that is at 31 feet just in case, because this full length of it is 62. Delete that out. I'm going to shorten this to about here. Then I want to take that line and I want to extend it all the way down at that same length to roughly there. I then need to change this line type. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to go over to my line type. I'm going to click on other and then load. And then you need to scroll through and find, based on what the USIT standard is, of which line type that should be. Which, based off the USIT standards that tell us it should be a long, short dash line, which should be this. I'm going to hit OK. Long dash, short dash, OK. And again, I just may need to reselect it, go back up to line type, and change it to what that is. I then want to make sure that it's to a good scale version of it. I'm just going to scale it at like 2. Yeah, I like how that looks. The last step to make sure that this is actually a center line is we need to put CL at the top and bottom of this line. So instead of going to the text tool again, I'm just going to go down here and I'm going to select the date size because I like the size of that. I'm going to Control C to copy it, and then I'm going to Control V to drop it down. Then I'm going to double click on it to change the text to CL. And then I'm going to type move, having it selected, and I want to move it to center onto it. And then I'm going to take that exact CL, select it, copy, and then I'm going to choose roughly in the middle of the two of where my copy point is, and I want to drop that right there on the bottom, and then hit escape to get out of there. I now have my one center line for the one space. I'm going to select all of that again, the line and the CLs, and then I'm going to type copy. I'm going to select this middle point, click on it, and then I want to bring this right over to the center of where this is and drop it on, so that then I have my center line for the other space. I then, looks like I may have dropped it up a little bit higher. I'm just going to select it and then type move, and I'm just going to drag it down a little bit so that it fits a little bit better in space. I'm not too worried about it being the most accurate on there as long as it's center. So to make sure that's true again, I'm going to use my dimension up here, the linear dimension tool, to find this corner and the center and make sure, yep, those points make up to 31 feet. Once you have this done and you have put all that information into here, I want you guys to PDF one of these, and it can just be this first floor ground plan so that we can go through how to kind of get those steps when we get to there. So to take a file and make it into PDF, You want to go up to that AutoCAD symbol, go down to print, and we're going to click on it. Here's where we can change a lot of these settings into print to do essentially what we need. So I want to hit the down arrow, and I want to change for the printer to plotter. You just go down to DWG to PDF, and that will change these things all into the size that we want. You then want to change your paper size, click the down, and find the ARC E. ARC E 36 by 48, and click onto that. We want to make sure when the plot scale, we do not want it to fit the page. We want to change the scale, and we want to go to 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. I then like to set it, make sure this is clicked. Then I want to go click on what to plot. I want to change that to window. And then for the window of it, I have it drawn that I want this corner to this corner of it. I then like to preview to make sure it looks how I want. It may take a second to load, but this is exactly how you want yours to look. That we have this nice little border in here to showcase what it is. We have everything drawn on here, and we can see our full drawing of this drawn into the space at the right line types with all the labels that we need. And then we have all of our information here that would be included onto this plate. The size of these fonts can change depending on what you're trying to type in here. If the title that you've put onto this is too long and won't fit, shrink the text. Shrink it down to make it fit into here what you need it to and can be applicable to whatever show it needs to be. Once it's done, I'll click this X button to get out of there. Because I know I'm going to do this multiple times on this file, we'll go ahead and apply to layout. And then you can click OK, and then you can save this wherever you would want it to be saved at, working for where it is, and then you'll click save. And it should be closed out. With that, that should be the end of this assignment. That you should be ready to now take this file, and use it for the adaptation project that you'll be working on. That you can take a lot of the information from SketchUp and use it to draw on here to showcase what the ground plan would be fully for this, and then at least one wall for what this would be. Please make sure when you turn this in that you have changed this information, that it should not say show name, venue, director. This should be the correct things that could be on here. Don't worry about the date, that's no big deal, or the plate numbers should change, because we do know for this will be 3, and so on and so forth, that you would want all the plate numbers to be 3 and the correct numbering to what this would be. This is just a step that will help you through later on when you're going through all of what this information is. Make sure all of that is correct to what all of this information will be, because you need to submit this file as well as one PDF of the first floor ground plan onto Canvas, so that I can see that you guys are able to do all of this. This title block that we've made in the corner, this is really usable for anything that you have done now, that if you need to, you could then scale that in the same manner that we did to a 1/2 inch scale or a 1/8 scale, to whatever size that you really need it to kind of work for what you're printing out to it. So I would make sure to save this as something else, because you can go back to this and use this for any other show in the future that you're using with it. This is a working title block that you can use for anything. So please, if you have any other questions, reach out to me. I'm here to work with you guys on what you kind of need through and kind of goes for. I'm excited to see how these all look for. Thanks, you guys.